All right, it's Thursday. It's not 7 o'clock. I'm Matty B. That's not Kyle Quinn. But this
That's
is
not,
the Birds Blast with Big Al stepping in. Kyle had a last minute thing. He could not make the show, and then we couldn't figure out a rescheduled date for the weekend because he's got something popped up. So Kyle had to take off. But Al adequately filling in, and I have no doubt that you will not only live up to the expectations set forth by Kyle Quinn, but you will probably blow that out of the water tonight. And Al, we don't do this enough. We don't do shows together enough, Al.
that'll change.
Okay, well, I can't wait. So welcome back to the Birds Blast. Of course, for those of you just tuning in for the very first time, this is the quintessential in Eagle pregame entertainment. This is a show that takes you back to the game that was and also gets you ready for the game that will be. And we definitely have, I guess, our final say on the week one Eagle Cowboy game that was played a week ago tonight out there in Lincoln Financial Field. Al, typically at this point of the show, I turn it over to Kyle to give the summary of the game, that what he saw and all that. But before I do that tonight, we got some things to talk about before really the game got going. And one last time, we're going to discuss this. Now, let's start off with the opening kickoff and Ben Summerin going down with a season-ending knee injury. Al, before I get to the main event of what part two of this, what was obviously you're defending your title. You raise the banner in front of the home faithful. Then on the opening kickoff, you lose a very important piece of what this offense was probably going to want to look like in 2025. How are you feeling? Were you feeling the voodoo in the air right off the bat?
Well, being in the stadium, and I was on the
right,
complete.
You were there.
Yeah, being in the complete opposite end, the other end of the field, because I was in the other end zone where my seats are at. Because remember, I called you. I wanted to see if you wanted to come with me, but
yes.
Of course, you weren't around the corner for that to happen.
No, it was not.
But we saw the injury and we knew. And then the first thing I turned to the guy next to me, I'm like, this dude can't catch a break. Ben Van Summer just injuries, and it's these weird injuries, like Joel Embiid-esque type injuries, orbital fractures or tearing something on the first opening play. It's just you feel bad for the guy, but being in the stadium at the time, because it's going to kind of lead to the next part, is then flags start flying and we can't see, we didn't know what happened, which as we'll talk about, and we're like, what's going on? Why are flags flying after they're loading? Like you see them loading them on the cart, and the guys coming.
So he
over
was still on the field when the flags were thrown for part two.
Yeah,
we didn't get that angle from the TV side.
Yeah. So then you start flags are flying. You're like, what the hell happened? Like the guy's getting carted. Like what could have happened between now and a cart? Well, as you know, I always go back to the Seinfeld episode where the spit that ricocheted off, like the JFK theory of the second gunman, you know what I mean? But idiot, just stupid. Like, listen, man, getting into it, getting angry, doing something stupid. That happens in football. Emotions are the best of you. But Jalen Carter, man, he's got to think you are on you're on a contract year now, man. Like that was the dumbest thing you could have ever done. And there's just no place for it, man. I'm an old school guy. You know what? You want to look at me, and you can sit here and debate who spit first, but we all know in sports it's not who throws the first punch, it's who retaliates.
Yeah, and you said it, Al. You got to be smarter than that. And he actually walked away, but then decided, well, I guess it was the taunting, and then, me? What are you talking to me? And then he comes back, and then that's when then he spits at Dak. You're right. You got to be better, and especially for a player that really is a very pivotal member of this team. Especially with all the upheaval on the defense or turnover on the defense heading into the season. Obviously, he was fined by the NFL for about $57,000, something like that, and no suspensions. I guess they gave him time served. And then the last point of the Jalen Carter debacle would be, one, are you okay with the NFL's decision? Do you think they should have made an example out of him? And two, do you still think the Eagles should do something internally to send a message on game day, maybe sit him for a series, a quarter, a snap, whatever?
I don't think a quarter or a series or a snap is going to make a difference. And you don't want to hurt yourself by doing this, but you do have to make an example. And I think internally it has to be handled. I don't think it's a hollow gesture, if you want to call it, if you make him sit for a series. Well, who does that help? He's still going to get his game check. He's still going to do that. Do you know what you do? I mean, I kind of go old school, kind of like your parents would do. Do you want, Jalen? You're going to go do some sort of charitable work. You're going to get lined up to do something along those lines. Like that's what I think gets him. And do you know what? First and foremost, make him stand up in front of the whole locker room the next day, like that Monday or Tuesday. And before we even get into it, Jalen Carter has something to say, and apologize. Make it up that way, because that's the only way you're going to get it. Like these guys, they make a lot of money even at this level that they're at right now. They're still rookie-ish status, first contract. They're still making a lot of money. If you got fined $50,000, Matty B, you're like, guys, it was nice knowing we're not here. Like that's that. To them, that's like you getting fined $500. Kick in the wallet, but you're something you can overcome.
Yeah, I can still go grocery shopping this week.
Absolutely, and that's my point. Is like the wallet is fine, but you know what? If I'm Howie Roseman, I come up to him and be like, I'm talking to your agent right now, and you just hurt yourself from a negotiation standpoint. That's where you hit him in the wallet. I think taking it now doesn't do anything, and hurting your team more, because we'll get into it in a few moments, but there were some young guys who had some proving to do, and NFL, like Jahad Campbell's one of the big ones. Like I talked to Steve when I did when I jumped on for the post game show with him. There's a guy who had a lot of built-in excuses coming off an injury. Nobody thought he was starting the season. Rookie. And then now you lost the best defensive player in front of you, so now you got to play even harder and be more head on a swivel type play. He had every built-in excuse not to have a great game, and he still had a really good game. And he hurt those guys, so I think taking them out only hurts them more, and as we saw, hurts the secondary, which we'll talk about in a moment.
And Ricky checks in and says, "Hi, Mike. I don't know who Mike is. Is somebody else popping in here?"
Yeah, unless there's like a Mike in the comments. I didn't see all the comments
I didn't
there.
see Mike either. So
me and Mike Laro do get people think we're the same guy all the time.
Yeah, you guys look a lot alike. Ryan says, "I honestly thought Eagles should have suspended Carter. It wasn't for past issues. Then no, but he has lots of past issues. They need to send him a message and try to make him learn. He honestly needs to be taught to grow up." And I think Al covered the message sending portion of this. Suspensions probably don't really resonate with athletes at this level who are dealing with the amounts of X's and O's and dollar signs that these guys go. And I think, we'll probably never know this, but maybe something internally was done that way inside the Eagle organization currently. And then, as Al mentioned, it could hurt the negotiation standpoint, especially. I was actually pretty puzzled that coming into the season, he was not named a defensive captain. And I know there's been a lot of talk about that and the maturity issues. And obviously this doesn't do anything to help that. But I don't know about – it's not like it's high school. I'm going to suspend you for 2 games. I mean, that's a significant part of your season in high school. You're not – you can't advertise yourself in front of scouts or college guys. And even college, it's a significant part of your season. But at the pro level, these guys honestly don't care. I would rather sit on the sidelines anyway and still collect a paycheck, for God's sake.
Well, that's my point. If you make him sit for a series, he gets a game check. You make him sit for a game, you make him sit for half the game, he gets a game check. But again, all you're doing is hurting your teammates. I get it. It's a game of emotions, but the guy is not. He shouldn't have been a captain. He shouldn't even thought about being a captain. And just because you're one of the better players on the team doesn't mean you should be a captain. Guys who are leaders need to be captains, and you know what? If you made him a captain, just because he's the best, maybe best defensive player on the field, if not in the league in some areas, doesn't mean he should have been a captain.
No. Ricky says, "Hi, Matt." Ricky's watching. Yes, Ricky, you got it right. I'm Matt. Me and Ricky, I thought we were close like that, man. You would never confuse me for somebody else. But do you guys see him being able to be a true leader? He may be a great player and threat on the field, but can he grow and be a on-the-field leader? Leadership is a quality you're born with, Ryan, isn't it? That's what I've always been told. I've been told that you either have it or not from a very early age. And I don't know if you can mold somebody into a leader. So I'm going to say no. He can be a great player and not be a leader on the field. And And now at the NFL level, can that actually happen? Can that coexist together? Not being a leader, but being also the face of a franchise and a great player.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, it happens all the time. Probably happens more often than not if you think about it. I mean, just because a guy's a quarterback, just because a guy, I mean, we've seen it all the time. Would you say Carson Wentz was a good leader even when he was doing really well?
We thought he was.
We thought
he was.
We thought he should have been. We thought he had all these intangibles, but nobody really knew. And now we know. You know what I mean? Like, so that's my ultimate point. Like, you don't have to be the quarterback to be a leader, but you really should be a leader as a quarterback. Like, that's just. But and who's the quarterback of the defense? Is it the linebackers? Last year was definitely probably Brandon Graham. Those are guys who are leaders. Now, I'll kind of push back a little bit. Yes, I think you have a leadership inside you. I think some people need to mature sometimes to find it. I think some people need to learn that they do have it. So there's kind of different varying levels. But I would say Jalen Carter, in my eyes, is not a leader. And is he ever going to be a true blue leader? It might take years to get there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, geez Louise. Where the hell you been? Little G checking in. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen you over here. This network's almost a year old, and you finally made it over here? Well, better late than never. Little G, how you been? It's been a minute. I'm a big fan of the Eagles season. Better Eagles kick butt. Well, yes, and we're gonna get into that here, Little G. But we gotta go back before we go forward. Before I continue on, I just want to remind everybody here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network and our family of shows. It got to a point where I had to get a schedule going. Now, Al's on me about this generic kind of retreaded schedule that I used, and we're going to fix that. But I couldn't wait. The graphics department was lagging, so I had to step in and create this. And this is our schedule for the rest of this week. We moved some things around today, but you did still see the attacking third. You did still see the Fighting's final, and you're seeing the Birds Blast. You're not going to see the final word with me. I'm not coming on right after this to do another show. I think you'll get enough of me tonight. Tomorrow, you got Big Al with the Fighting's final and the wraparound, and Penn State Nova, and some Phillies Royals Fighting's final action. So please be on the lookout for all the great things that we're doing here on the network. And Al, I guess this is part of the show where I can now turn it over to you and say, based on everything that on the spitting and non-spitting and the Ben Van Sumeren injury, what was your summary of what you saw at Lincoln Financial Field on Thursday night?
The lack of preseason play is always going to make weeks 1 and 2 and even 3, some places 4, questionable. Like, you can't judge anything from any team as far as I'm concerned from week 1. But what I saw was the defense does definitely still have holes it needs to fill. Maybe outside, not from the inside, especially from the CB2 aspect of things. Offensive line, definitely could see the fatigue in them towards the second half of the game. Plus that rain delay did not help, I don't think, anybody, because you saw the Cowboys really trying to bring a lot of heavy blitzes, jailbreak type of runs on the O-line and really pressed them. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for Jalen Hurts' feet, there could have been a different outcome of a game. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because a couple drop balls could have been the difference in a game.
I saw a similar product, and I do want to ask you about one thing, because I think I was ranting about this last night on my show. And I know this is an NFL thing. It's not an Eagles thing. And I know this is how the NFL views the preseason, and they've been viewing it like this for a while, mainly for the injury aspect of preseason football. But when you take the preseason and flush it down the toilet and don't use any of your starters and don't run any kind of plays and don't try to knock off the proverbial rust, don't you lose the excuse of the preseason excuse during the regular season when these freaking games count? I know you mentioned first 3, maybe first 4, and the Eagles did win, but you cannot, like a baseball thing, you cannot win the Super Bowl in September, but you certainly can lose one. And my point is this, though, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the concept. I understand the reasoning, but if you're going to not use the preseason for what it's intended for, should you not be able to use the preseason excuse when you come out slow to start the season?
Well, listen, the NFL has got to the point where they're not going to play their players. The people, it's not just the Eagles. It's not just a certain hand group. preseason's to see who's on the bubble and who's going to make your team and who's not, and what you need, what is going to be needed to move forward. And that's it. That's all the preseason is for. You get way more out of the combo practices when the guys come in town tonight, because you can do situational football. I mean, like when I coach football, when I do scrimmages, I don't do a full field with the teams. I say, Larry, you get 5 red zone plays. I get 5 red zone plays. You get, from the 40-yard line and on, and I get from the 40-yard line and on. And then we get 3 2-minute drill each, and that's it. So you get more of that situational football than I think you're going to get any preseason anyway. And let's be honest, if you put Jalen Hurts or any of the key players, AJ Brown or Saquon Barkley in there, and they get hurt in the preseason, the coach is a moron, and they put him in there. It's just a lose-lose situation, and it's a reality. It's a reality like with baseball when they start doing the zombie runner in the extra innings. Not a fan of it at all, but it's just something that had to happen. Just certain things that had to change are going to change, and now they're just going to be natural. Like, my kids are not going to know what watching preseason Smash Mouth football was going to be like, because guys wanted to make a statement.
Now, listen, I get you, and I understand the overarching thing. I know it's not an Eagles thing; it's the NFL wide. But in my opinion, say I was a young man, a little kid, whatever, and my first Eagles game was Thursday night in my life, and I went and saw that. I'm not, you're not seeing the refined product. But I get, even if you played 4 preseason games or 3 you still could come out, because you're never going to run your real plays in the preseason, because you're not going to give away your hand. Maybe the NFL just needs to have a better. Maybe the offseason doesn't have to be 8 months long. Maybe they can shorten the offseason and try to work in some sort of like minor leagues. I don't know, something to get a better product right off the jump. But the Eagles did win. Now, Al, there were a few things in this game, and when we get to the Birds Blast stat pack, I'm going to go over some of these things, but I am going to key on a couple of, you mentioned some of the things that you saw. I want to mention some of the things I saw. Saquon Barkley was a huge part of the Eagle offense in the first half. As Jalen Hurts showed very early on that either they weren't interested in going down the field with the ball, they couldn't go down the field with the ball, whatever. AJ Brown was hurt, whatever the reason is, they didn't go down the field. So Saquon was once again employed the way he's been employed all last season. But at the end of the day, Saquon ends up having fewer rushing yards than the quarterback does, and that home run hit, that ice away run that we've kind of grown accustomed to for him last year, never came. By my reckoning, this is 2 straight games now that Saquon Barkley has been neutralized for the most part, going back to the Super Bowl. Is there something to this now? Saquon, is he expected to rush for or accumulate 2,500 all-purpose yards in 2 straight seasons? Maybe not. Maybe that's a hard ask. But are you concerned at all with Saquon at this point?
No. And here's the thing is, and I'll tell you why. The last one was the Super Bowl, obviously.
Yeah.
And you knew this team had one. Whoever was playing the Eagles, maybe I was higher on the Eagles being more effective before the Super Bowl happened than maybe you were, and some other people thought it would be more knockout, drag-out game. And, Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, it's hard to bet against him. I get it. But you knew that as a team, as a defending team, you have to look at this and say, what do we do? Well, we feel the biggest weapon, Saquon. We got to shut him down. So we're going to put all our major resources on Saquon Barkley. And they did. And they did a decent job. And he still had, we had 75 yards, which is not anything to write home about. But he still put up 75 yards. But by doing so, they lost in the pass game big time. And so you're doing that. But unfortunately, the Eagles didn't have much of a pass game this year. AJ Brown wasn't a factor. I still think he must be a little bit more injured. He's out there more as a decoy than he is a actual pass catching threat. They didn't really, throw to Devontae Smith more than 3-4 times, I think.
Yep, 3 targets.
So he had that one big pass to Dotson, but and then some guys that you didn't even know their names existed were catching balls out there. So this was, I said you can't judge anything by the first and last games of the NFL season anymore. Because some guys aren't even playing. It's the last game's no different than some preseason games. So no, am I worried about it? No. Are people going to be smarter about how to handle Saquon this year? Abso-freaking-lutely. Is it going to be a lot harder for Saquon to hit 2,000 mark? Abso-freaking-lutely. But is he still going to be effective? If Saquon at bare minimum is getting close to 100 yards and opening up the pass game, then he's doing his job.
Saquon finished the day with 60 rushing yards and 24 receiving yards, so 84 total yards. Jalen Hurts finished with 62 yards rushing. So the quarterback outrushed your number one running back. Now, if the secret is out, the blueprint is out, Saquon's tired, treads off the tires, whatever the reason is that he's not as effective as he was in his prime that we remember, doesn't it sort of revert the pressure right back onto the quarterback, who obviously the reason why we ended up giving the ball to Saquon so much was because the quarterback couldn't handle that pressure back in the first 4 weeks of 2024. And does that concern you? Because you mentioned the factors with the passing game that wasn't necessarily open. Again, week one, I get it. But there's ramifications and a domino effect if Saquon is being neutralized. And does the quarterback, because he didn't show it, or the offense as a collective did not show it in this game, that they can overcome that?
Again, I can't judge anything of this team being able to overcome anything at this point. I'm going to tell you another reason I think Saquon wasn't as effective in the run game is there was a lot of fatigue and rust on the O-line. And you know me, I'm big on the O-line, and tell you one of the best O-lines in the NFL, and still probably is. I'm not wrong, but here we go. But the O-line was not as quick and fast and speedy as we're used to seeing. And then you saw Dickerson and all that injury and all that stuff. So that plays, I think, a gigantic factor on the run game.
And then I go back to the preseason point. We can go round and round. I get it. And I know the bottom line was they won. It's week one. We've seen this team sort of kind of go through its paces. And I know that a lot of Eagles fans out there were bracing for this because this is sort of the MO. It was the MO last year, and they did have a lot of turnover, especially on the defense. Let's talk defense, and then we'll move on to the stat pack and get to the Chiefs. But two glaring issues with the defense, obviously, were the lack of a pass rush for the better part of the first half and into the second half a little bit. They did rectify that later in the game, but the piss poor, I want to say it, play of the secondary. Even Quinn got picked on a little bit. And got a penalty against him and a couple of other things. He did all right. But then you also factor in CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson's drop passes that really, I think, saved the Eagles in that game. Thoughts on the secondary first? Where are you at with them?
Well, it's just from elite on one side to stinky on the other side. I mean, Adoree Jackson, he better have some sort of game to make us all forget what happened, because he shouldn't have a job right now. But it just might be a lot. Does it just show you how Keely Ringo has fallen off, from what they thought he was going to be, that he couldn't even get to a start in a game over Adoree Jackson, who just seemed to be the second coming of Al Harris. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Harris.
Yeah.
Before the Packers or after the Packers?
Before the Packers. old burnt toast Al Harris. But like they were picking on him. Now I know you're going to get on me on this one, but I can tell you right now, the one on Quinn, I think it was Quinn on, the beginning of the game when it put the Dallas Cowboys right in position to score that first one, that was rust on the referees in my eyes, because I'm watching that game. I was right there I was right there in the corner. There was no, not that one. The one on the sideline.
I thought you about the one that was going down kind of the seam. It was along the sideline, but not on the sideline.
Yeah, the one on the sideline. There's a lot of hand fighting between both players.
Yeah, there was.
And my question was, and you're a ref, and I know you do umping for baseball, you're not doing football, but you got a guy who has the best view, 3 feet in front of him, but why that flag came from the other side of the field, the guy had to run over and chuck the flag like out of nowhere 30 seconds after the play was over. Shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. That was like one of those, either let him play, because you could call that either way. I'm not shocked. I'm not upset that they called it. I'm upset that they called the way it was called, and it really put Dallas in that a position to score first and have the momentum. But you saw how that defense reacted, like you said, especially that first half. It looked like one of those games was going to be you hit me, I hit you back. You hit me, I hit you back. Whoever blinked first. I remember turning to the guy next to me. I said, "It's going to be a turnover game. It's whoever has the first turnover is going to cost themselves the game."
And that was actually, you're right about that, because Miles Sanders really stuck a fork in the Cowboys when he fumbled down by the goal line. So I agree with you there. Ryan's asked, no doubt it does, Al. Why couldn't Saquon do his best New York Giant? I don't know what he means by that. No O-line. Same with Dan Jones. Is he saying that the effort against the Cowboys was worse than any effort he has had against with the Giants? I don't understand.
No. I think what he's saying is why was Saquon not as effective as a Giant?
Okay.
Because the O-line sucked. I mean, they just had a terrible O-line. And same thing with Danny Jones. I mean, the New York Giants, the guys coming in. I mean, I was on PM and I was producing PM in the AM, and they had the whole NFC East represented in there early on Sunday. And that Giants guy, how first game, hope springs eternal type situation.
Everybody feels that.
And now not only did they just get it handed to them, but they also had to watch Daniel Jones have a good game. A really good game. It just goes to show you that, good organizations that have good players and put the right players in the right position. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Daniel Jones is the second coming of Jesus. No, but it just goes to show you what happens when you are able to have a real offensive line, real coaching, a real organization behind you. And despite the fact, this just goes to show you how good Saquon was, that he was able to get those big plays, those big chunk plays, those touchdowns. And if you think about it, if you take Saquon off the Giants, what was it, 4 years he was there, 5 years? You take him off that, they probably win half the amount of games they won, which wasn't many.
Yeah. And then they also didn't have him for a whole season because he blew out the ACL at one point. So yeah, listen, I've always been a big fan of Saquon's. I definitely think he's going to have it. He's not going to have the season he had last year, which concerns me because I thought the offense pretty much ran through him last year. And I don't know if the rest of the group can pick it up, but we'll have to wait and see. But let's get to the Birds Blast stat pack. The Eagles were 3 for 3 in the red zone. Al, you got to be effective down low. The Eagles struggled a little bit with that last year. I think they finished around 60% in the red zone, but ain't nothing like getting off to a start with 100% in the red zone. Were you impressed with the red zone play calling or the red zone effectiveness, or both?
Well, that and the fact that they scored in the first quarter. I mean, what did they do that like twice last year?
And they still won quarter 8 times in the regular season last year, and they only scored on 2 opening drives the entire season.
Yeah, so you had that. You had 3 for 3 in the red zone. You scored on your opening drive, and you scored in your first quarter. Yep. You're able just to get that monkey off your back. So yeah, I mean, how are you not impressed with that? Even knowing that you don't have the full, Saquon wasn't what we were used to seeing from the offensive line being a little sluggish, and AJ Brown. I think he's a little bit more injured than they're letting on. Just enough to be a decoy.
Impressed with Hurts' decision-making in the red zone. Steve says, well, his decision-making was run for my life. I scored 2 touchdowns. But, yeah, I mean, listen, he didn't force it. So you got to give him credit there. I am. The Eagles did score 21 first-half points, but they only scored 3 second-half points. And I think lost in all the Eagle drama or Eagle happiness about the way the defense clamped the Cowboys down. And, again, I'm going to cite the Miles Sanders fumble and the CeeDee Lamb drops as part of that too. But, holding the Cowboys to no second-half points, the Eagle offense only scored 3 the entire second half. And, there's been something that Kevin Petula's maybe the playbook kind of got a little smaller. It got a little bit more conservative. It was his first game play calling. What do you chalk up the second half lack of offense to?
Well, that break definitely, I think, plays a little bit of a factor into the lack of offense. I mean, it came 4 minutes left in the third quarter.
And when an hour and 4 minute delay.
Yeah, I think that plays a major factor into it. I mean, both teams made adjustments at the halftime to tighten up the defense. So coming out, you had 2/3 of your quarter ready to be used, and that was it. Then you have an hour and a half break. So yeah, that was no, and I think that was the biggest factor, to be honest with you. And they made good defensive adjustments. Give the Eagles credit where credit was due, to keep them off kill.
Eagles did commit 9 penalties for 110 yards. And yes, I know that was a big talking point. The ticky-tack, the taunting, some of the penalties were a little, I got it. But as you mentioned, week 1, if the players can bang off some rust, the refs can also do the same thing. Absolutely. And coming into the season, I can't imagine what that must be like for an NFL officiating crew, because they're probably sitting in a classroom somewhere in the middle of summer, and they're just getting hammered with, you will pay attention to this. You will pay attention to that. You will take every time you see something like this, because we have a mandate we're going to follow, and we're going to try to cut down on certain things. I thought it was a little excessive. Penalties across the board. But the Eagles, 9 penalties, 110 yards. That is not good, no matter how you shake it. Is this and kind of week 1 as in general, there's a lot of penalties called. Is this something that football fans are going to have to get used to in 2025?
I mean, I don't feel it's any different than the other year, to be honest with you. There's always something that the NFL tends to hyper focus on, and this year seems to be taunting, which to me is the biggest load of crap. It is like taking fights out of hockey in my eyes. I mean, if somebody says something just plain out terrible, like, something racially or something, just something that should never be spoken of or have done, the one where
cross the line.
Yeah, cross the line. Like the Nolan Smith one where he gets up and he goes, you could say he was kind of general direction. I could, again, it was kind of like the other one I was just talking about. I can see why it was called, but it's just BS. Like, why would you, you're taking the aggression out of the game. Like, that to me was that's just dumb. I'm sorry, that's dumb. And if guys are gonna get up and you can't control yourself to get up and not like somebody couldn't control himself not to spit back at Dak Prescott, then the guy should be able to control himself to not get up and shove a guy because he didn't like what he said or he made a good play. Those are the kind of things I really don't like about that's why they call it the no fun league anymore.
Yeah,
that you're taking everything away. It's fine. You've made it hard enough to be a secondary player, cornerback or safety in the NFL, because you look at the guy funny while he's running down the field, you're going to get called for something any longer. So you got that going against you. Like, I mean, being a defensive player in the NFL has to be one of the toughest jobs in the world. I mean, you could be a defensive tackle trying, in midair, making a sack. He gets the ball off just in time, and all of a sudden you rough the passer because you can't stop in midair. So, I mean, it's just, there's always something they hyper focus on. So no, I just think it's just another day in the neighborhood for the NFL.
Yeah, but you gotta, and I know they gotta find a way to mitigate 9 penalties at 110 yards. You're gonna have a hard time winning a Super Bowl if you're gonna be committing over 100 yards and penalties in a game. The Eagles did force the game's only turnover, and that was on the very important Miles Sanders, and Steve Fuentes mentions the Zach Bond play, which happened a little bit earlier in that game where Sanders was breaking one and he gets that was the same drive, I think, wasn't it? That was the same drive.
Right after. It was right after
that. Yeah,
that big break. Sanders Bond runs down Sanders, and then the next play or two, I think it was 2 plays later, he fumbles, and Quinn could have had 6 on that if he didn't trip over that grass.
The pesky grass out there.
I feel bad for Quinn. Like, he's always going to get, looks like he's going to get like a pick 6, or he's going to pick up the ball and run with it, and just falls over nothing.
Yeah, it does seem like he's got 1 career interception, and then one in the Super Bowl or something like that. Yep. The Eagles did allow 1 sack to Jalen Hurts. The only sack of the game was for 8 yards, which it's pretty clean though. They did not get to Dak Prescott at all, and they were 0 for 0. The Eagles did not have to go for it on 4th down. Big Al. There was a few tush pushes, of course, along the way, but those were in the 3rd down variety. Eagles were the most go for it on 4th down team in the NFL last year. I guess the situation just didn't call for it. They weren't put in that situation. I'm sure they would have, they had to, but 0 for 0 on 4th down attempts in this game. So, and all that,
right? That means you didn't require, I mean, how many punts did they have in this game? It wasn't many.
It wasn't until the second half too. I think the first punt was in the either very end of the first half or the beginning of the second half. But all right, so the Eagles get the win. They go 1-0, and then me and Kyle both picked the Eagles to win this football game. So we're both now 1-0. I had them going 28-21. Kyle had 28-20, but we also both had Saquon Barkley as our game MVPs. I think it's safe to say that I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts as the offensive game or the game MVP for the Eagles. Al, do you have any other candidates you want to push for the game MVP in this game?
I mean, the Jalen Hurts one makes sense because the one thing I could take from Jalen is his confidence. Maybe winning sometimes when they win a Super Bowl, you get guys get cocky instead of confident or, overkill or anything like that. But his confidence, you just seem to see just Captain Cool. Nothing seems to rattle his cage, that kind of guy. That's why I like it. But if I'm going to add another guy into it, I mean, Dallas Goedert. He was the main pass catcher the other day, or on last Thursday, a week ago today, actually. Speaking of the tush push, the Green Bay Packers are up right now. Just scored again. Should be 23-20. It's probably going to be 24-3 over those pesky Washington Commanders. Talking about not liking the tush push too much.
That's right. Joe Hale says Jake Elliott. Interesting. That you know what? Kudos to you, Joe. That's right. Give Jake Elliott some love. What did he kick? A 60-yarder in that game, and it would have been good at 65. You were there. Did you get a good look at that?
I saw him lining up for it, and I'm like kind of like, well, is this a fake? I thought like maybe they're just going to line up and make them think they're going to do it and just let the clock run down and just then punt it or whatever. But no, I mean, he was hitting it beforehand, and it was a lot breezier actually beforehand than it was during the game up until the rain, of course.
Yeah. I actually had Jake Elliott. He's on my fantasy team. I think he got me 8 points this week. So thank you, Jake Elliott. A good one there, Joe Hale. Steve Fuentes chimes in with Jordan Davis deserves a shout out for stepping up and playing way more snaps than anticipated because of Carter getting in shape. So I got an interesting comment on this Jordan Davis phenomenon. And you're right. He played well. And I think he surprised a lot of people. He's an NFL defensive lineman who you took in the 13th overall pick 4 years ago. And now, finally, 4 years later, after giving him a huge contract extension, Jordan Davis finally got in shape. I mean, what the hell are we doing here, man? I get it and all, but I'm not going to laud the guy for doing something he should have done 4 years ago.
Did he get a contract?
Did he get the extension in the offseason, didn't he? Yeah, they gave him the extension. He was entering his third year of his rookie deal.
No, they picked up his option.
They picked up his option. Anyway, they picked up his option.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to sit here and congratulate. Oh, thank you, Jordan Davis. After 4 years, you finally got in shape. I'm not gonna do that. You did play well, and he maybe finally going to be a man about it. But I'm not giving him credit for doing something he should have done 4 years ago. Al,
I agree with you. I'll give Jordan Davis credit because he just played more. I mean, like I don't call it credit, but like it's nice to see that he can. Because that seemed like a problem. Like, remember who was it he chased down? It was it Josh Allen or something a couple of years back, or in 2023?
I think it was Allen.
Yeah, it was Josh Allen. He chased
in that overtime game, right? Yeah, it was Josh Allen.
He chased him down. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, Josh Allen couldn't get away from Jordan Davis." But then, like, he couldn't run again for the rest of the season. Like, he gave it all he got right there to go get Josh Allen. So it's like kind of like I get it, and it's just like. I like again. I kind of when I coach, I have guys who are growing up through the smaller, like the earlier, like the freshmen, sophomore, and juniors. They were the big guys. All they had to do is push guys around because they were head and shoulders taller than them, just bigger guys. And I think Jordan Davis kind of was that guy in college. He was just so much bigger. He could just rely on his bigness. You know what I mean? But now when you get to the NFL and you're into like I'm up to the seniors now, and I show them like, hey, listen, you ain't the biggest guy on the field anymore. You got to work on your technique and control your weight. So it shouldn't have been like, hurrah, hooray. You did such a good job because you decided to get yourself in shape because you're getting paid millions of dollars to be in shape. Like it's your freaking job. Just like part of my job. If I don't do part of my job, I'm in trouble. So, and also again, contract season, they like, I just checked it. Yeah. They picked up an extension. So they got him through 2026 on the 5th-year option. So, yeah, if he wants to go further than that or get paid further than that, you got to do it.
So Steve fires back. It's about maturing, and it's a sign Davis can do it. Way more mature than the elite spitter of Jalen Carter. If you're comparing Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, it might be a little bit of apples and oranges. I don't, I get what you're trying to say here, but I'm going to go back to that whole the minute his name was called, he should have been like, I'm going to the weight room because I want to go out and excel at the NFL level. So, what are the coaches doing? What was the weight room with Jordan Davis the last 4 years? Hey, man, put the Big Mac down. Come on, Jordan. Give me 5 more, man. You can do it, buddy. Come on, Skipper. Get to it. Come on, man. He's got to take some self-accountability here. He's a grown man getting paid millions of dollars.
You're absolutely right. But remember, they don't live with these guys. So Jordan Davis could be eating, drinking smoothies and power shakes when he's at the stadium or when they're feeding him or whatever. But as soon as he gets in his car, he can stop through Burger King and grab 20 cheeseburgers. You know what I mean? Like, they don't live with him and control him that way. But yeah, I mean, they do put weight contracts in guys, weight in guys' contracts and stuff like that. And they should do it. Like, listen, man, if you don't drop the pounds, we're going to get rid of you. But you also don't want to lose out on your first round pick either. So it's kind of a catch-22.
I get it, but that's the Eagles get the win 24-21-0 now. A crucial win because it was like a 3-game swing in the standings. It was a head-to-head, a divisional, and a conference game that all would have went the wrong way for the Eagles. So that was good to get that going.
I'll be honest with you. I had the Eagles winning by a touchdown. I had 28-21 because because in my eyes is usually offense is slower to start. That first half is always slow. Defense usually is a little quicker to start. And I just thought in my eyes, this was the Cowboys Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, that's why the Cowboys got this game. Because the NFL sitting there going, well, the Cowboys are going to Cowboys this thing up, and everybody's on to them. How do we make the Cowboys more interesting? And I said, well, let's put them in the first week when the Eagles are hanging the banner. When both teams, the Eagles aren't going to be the Eagles that we knew last year, at least at this point. The odds of them coming out like gangbusters is slim to none. So it's going to be a more competitive game. It's a divisional game. It's Cowboys, Eagles. Let's, to open up the season. Hell yeah, let's do this. Probably a big draw for, that's why the Cowboys and Eagles were usually a Sunday night football game. Yeah. But they know that the Cowboys are not going to be that good, and I would not be surprised. I'm not gonna say they're gonna lose to the Giants because the Giants are just a bad team this week, but it wouldn't shock me if they did.
I have my own personal opinion about the way the season, the opener game with the Cowboys. I much would rather a divisional home game be played in December than an opening night in September. I just think we only got the 8 home games. We're 8-9 this year, so we got the extra road game. I conserve all those really important home games for later in the season, those divisional games. I know there was a bunch of divisional matchups in week 1. I'm totally against that. That stuff should be for after Halloween and beyond. Let's get all that fluff out of the way with first, but whatever. But I can see it from the standpoint that you're saying from the NFL and the Cowboys standpoint. But yeah, I don't know. I would have much rather seen Eagles Lions. I think that would have been a sexier matchup. To see a game that a lot of people were wanting to see back in the championship game. So I would have rather seen Eagles Lions.
I listen, I agree with you, but from the standpoint, how teams can come out slow, or teams can come out looking real good, aka the Saints last year.
Yeah. Were they 4-0?
They were they're
2-0, and they outscored their opponents like 80-0 or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, here come the Saints. The Saints are going to be this great team, and then they were forgotten about by everybody but New Orleans by that. I
think they won 4 games all season.
Yeah, they won most of them in the first 4 weeks. Yeah, but that's my point. Is I think the NFL looks at that. Why would you want to do it when we don't like you said, we don't know what any team is right now. I mean, some teams like the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, those kind of guys are going to be good teams, even if they come out to rocky starts. But you might get a team like Atlanta that comes out and goes 2-0, 3-0, and then get the same thing you got from the Saints. So I think the NFL looks at this point of view. We would rather put the Lions in the middle of the season, middle to end of the season, when there's playoff implications, seeding implications, versus a Dallas game that could be, if you put that towards the end of the season. Why do you think Washington's? Remember, they go, was it Washington, Buffalo, Washington, the last 3 games, something like that?
Yep.
So, hold on, we have it here. Hold on. Yeah, okay, yeah. Washington, Buffalo, Washington. So why do you think they put it that way? Because it's going to be, if Washington's half as good as they are, which I don't think they're going to be, and I'll tell you why when we get to that point. But I think Washington is, they feel Washington's going to be more of a divisional rival this year than the Cowboys were. So I think this is the only way we're going to get any juice out of the Cowboys. So let's do it.
Yeah, and a little extra added juice to that Bills game. You know, that's the last regular season game at Orchard Park. That's going to be their final game.
Really?
Yeah, they're opening a new stadium next year, and that home game against the Eagles is their last regular season game at that stadium.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I did know they were opening it, and it didn't compound to me that it's going to be the last one. That's pretty crazy.
Yep. All right, Al, let's turn the page because we do got a Super Bowl rematch coming. The Eagles Chiefs Sunday, the 0-1 Kansas City Chiefs, kind of shocked on the national spotlight down in Brazil against the Chargers, against the 1-0 Philadelphia Eagles. The Gridiron database is reporting that the Eagles will be wearing their Wentz whites, which is their all-white uniforms, and the Chiefs will be going with their traditional cherry red tops and white bottoms. Now, I want to be very clear that I think the last 5 times that the Gridiron database has told me the Eagles are wearing all white, they weren't. So don't get mad at me if I'm giving you the wrong information. I'm going off of what the damn database
is telling you.
Yeah, so don't get mad at me. The weather in Kansas City, Al, 92 degrees at kickoff with heavy humidity in the air. Does that play into something like this? This is going to be a warm day in Kansas City.
Is this a pickle juice kind of game?
I don't think it's going to be that hot, but 92 for a game in mid-September. I mean, mostly cloudy with about a 5% chance of rain. So maybe it's more sunlight than it's humidity, but it's a warm day.
Well, that and the fact is, it's been around here unseasonably, almost a little early fall. So that could play a factor.
Let's talk some injury reports because I got the latest one from a few hours ago. Let's talk about that, and I just lost it. So let me bring it right back up. Oh, good Lord, man!
He injured the injury report.
Yeah, man. I literally just like looking at it and I clicked off of it. All right, here we go. I found it. Oh man. So did not participate for the Eagles in practice today. Dallas Goedert dealing with a knee sprain. Tanner McKee still messing with that right thumb, and Will Shipley, they're calling it an oblique, but I think we're also calling it a rib injury. Out of those 3 players that did not participate, I think they've already kind of ruled Tanner McKee out. And I don't know if Shipley's going to go with a bruised rib. The question now goes around Dallas.
Bigsby's here.
Yeah, and that's why they brought in Tank Bigsby. So obviously, I don't think we're going to see Shipley. And that leads me back to Dallas Goedert, your hero from game 1. A lot of people's heroes from game 1. We can't get through one game, and we're already talking about a Dallas Goedert injury, Big Al. And the Eagles they're a little paper thin behind him because they didn't really address the tight end position at all. And they didn't do it at all in the draft, and very limitedly with some B and C type free agents in the free agent market. With Jalen Hurts, and I'm the first one to get on him about not throwing the ball to the middle of the field. He only threw the ball 4 times in the middle of the field, which is actually a high number for him.
I was going to say, it was like the first pass I think they made was right over the field.
It was, he went to the middle of the field. He completed 4 passes to the middle of the field, and he only completed 48 all last season. So that's a pretty good way to start the year. But how significant is, once again, dealing with the Dallas Goedert injury situation, and how significant it is the fact that we don't really have much behind him?
It's significant in many ways. I mean, we were nervous going into the last third of the season last year. Dallas Goedert is a really good tight end, and after that, it's a big drop off for the Eagles. Yeah. And you had Calcaterra, who was a decent blocking tight end. You had some big Calcaterra plays for filling in, but it's like Amundo Sosa in the Phillies. Like, I liked it. He played well for Trey when Trey was injured last year, or was it this year, or whatever it was. But you don't want to see them there for the rest of the season either. So I mean, they took a chance. They felt he could stay healthy, and I figured you're going to at least lose 2 to 3 games within the season. So do it early, then do it later, I guess.
And there's still a chance that we see him. I'm sure he's going to be a game time decision. Limited participants for the Eagles in practice was Cam Williams. Full participants were Landon Dickerson dealing with the back and knee, and Jalix Hunt with a hip problem, but they were full participants. So that's looking pretty good. For the Chiefs, Jalen Royals, the wide receiver, did not participate because of a knee issue. Xavier Worthy was a limited participant, but he did participate with the shoulder problem. And of course, that's going to be our first lead-in Kansas City Chief question. What the hell's going on? Why can't they keep a wide receiver? I mean, their entire wide receiver core is like half of it's been decimated after 1 week. They're already dinged up. But honestly, I could play wide receiver, and I think Pat Mahomes could get the ball to me. So
he's just that kind of guy. He makes them better.
Exactly.
It helps us a little bit with us being thin. But again, if Matty B went out for a pass against Adoree Jackson when the ball's being thrown by Pat Mahomes, I'm putting my money on Matty B, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that I think it was Joe Hale said that the Chiefs wide receivers are dinged up. They are, but Pat Mahomes is not, and that's and Travis Kelce is not, and Kelce and Mahomes, they were on display in Week 1 against the Chargers. So let's continue on with and that was that's the bulk of the Chiefs injury report. Al, what of these injuries, if any, could play a significant role in this game?
Xavier Worthy's the big one on my eyes. It has to be. I mean, since Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, there hasn't been, there's been guys stepping up, but they all have haven't had great track records, or they weren't, they just didn't live up to the what that duo was. And injuries and drop balls have been a big thing for Patrick Mahomes last year. I mean, a lot of people thought the Chiefs were kind of falling off before the season, and a lot of people didn't think the Chiefs would even make the Super Bowl just because they couldn't win games, or they were kind of cutting it close with a lot of drop balls. But it's Patrick Mahomes, like you said. I know. I mean, you can't look past him, no matter how bad the team is banged up. But that's still a big that helps the Eagles big time defensively, especially with the Adoree Jackson as currently starting for the Eagles.
It does. But you don't sleep on number 15. If you sleep on him, you're going to get burned. He's going to find a way to get you if you do that.
I don't think. Honestly, I made the suggestion. I think Steve here, he heard me talk about this earlier the other day. Somebody was talking about Eagles Dallas week. I said, Eagles Dallas week will always be Eagles Dallas week and Eagles Dallas, rivalry. But is a real rivalry now built between the Eagles and Chiefs?
Well, I'm gonna. Can I answer that?
Sure.
Because I had to deal with Junior coming on this show every week, telling me that the 49ers and the Eagles were the new rivalry.
Who's Junior?
Quinn, Kyle. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with that stuff. And listen, I get what you're saying, but when you only play them once every 4 years or once every 3 years, how can that really be a rivalry? True or false?
Well, let me ask you this question. Is it a rivalry when a team has been really bad, just always messing up the situation, as we used to say back in the mid-2000s? Or is it a team that's seen each other 2 out of the last 3 Super Bowls and played each other twice in those years since then, on top of the Super Bowl? So, I mean, the NFL knows what they're doing, that you're putting Eagles and Chiefs against each other.
Yeah.
Just like we said, when the Eagles lost to the Chiefs in 2022 and played them in 2023 and won at Arrowhead, that wasn't a revenge game. You can't take revenge on losing in a championship. There's no revenge.
No.
It's just that you get to say, oh, I beat you the next time, but the next time meant nothing compared to that time.
Yeah.
So, in my eyes, is if you take the New York Giants, is that a rivalry?
No, Giants suck.
Okay, well, the Dallas Cowboys suck a little less.
I agree. I think that
the rivalry is more based on the teams being more equal and trading blows in championships.
Absolutely, and that was a good point that I was going to make. You're right. There's the team's validity has to be taken into consideration. No one I love to see the Eagles beat up on the Cowboys every week, but going into this Cowboy game, did anybody even care it was Dallas week? I mean, going into it,
people say it, people cheer it, but it doesn't have the same luster as it has.
No, it doesn't. So I maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to usher in a new era of new rivals, and maybe the Chiefs put Tampa in that category too, I guess. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's time to look at some new rivalry situations. And you're right. There's been obviously an uptick in the frequency that the Eagles have played the Chiefs over the last few seasons, but you might be right. Steve, also, Travis Kelce is absolutely nowhere near the threat he was when he and Mahomes were at their best. Kelce is focused on, again, you're right. He's not the same, but he's pretty freaking damn good. And come on, man.
Do you think that the whole proposal is going to, at this time, right before the season started, will be a little bit of a distraction to Travis?
I think if the season gets away from the Chiefs, yes. If they're not, competing, or if they don't have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, yes. But as long as they're in contention in the AFC West, which they will be, and in contention for a Super Bowl, they will be. I think he'll be fine with it. Now, if the Chiefs win it again this year, I'm about 99.9% sure he walks away as a Super Bowl champion and then calls it a career.
Do you think if they don't win, he doesn't walk away?
You see, that's a great question. Is he on a 1-year deal? I mean, is his contract is still valid? I don't even know his contract situation out there.
I'll tell you right now.
Steve also says Eagles and Chiefs are always going to play each other because the NFC East plays the AFC West this year. They won't play each other again unless it's Super Bowl from here on out. And KC isn't.
What about the last 2 years? Didn't they play him last year? Or no, the year, but it was 2023.
Well,
they played him last.
They played him twice in 20. No, last year they didn't play him at all.
Yeah, so 22 they played once, and then they played in the Super Bowl. So every year they have to play him and just go back to the Super Bowl.
No, they did play him in 24.
So it was a 2-year extension. He signed in April 2024 for $34.25 million.
So he's got one more year left after this. So I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. They Eagles and the Chiefs did play in 24 because the Eagles or the NFC East played the AFC East, and because of the 9th game or the 17th game, the geographical rivalry that year is the East-West. So I think they played him in 24. I don't know. I know they played the West. I don't know if they played them it was one team from the West. I don't know if it was the Chiefs, but I see what you're saying, Steve. All right. Al, all that being said, I want to know give me 3 key matchups that Big Al's looking for Eagles Chiefs on Sunday.
Well, I mean, the one we've already talked about a bunch is Adoree Jackson versus anybody getting a ball thrown at him. I mean, that has to be the big one because that could be the biggest hole in the defense right now. I mean, I honestly think this is where Howie needs to get on his horse and start making some phone calls. That is going to be that could be the difference maker in a close game, in a battle against 2 teams who just battled in the Super Bowl. And let's be honest, you didn't just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you embarrassed the Kansas City Chiefs. They are now 0-1 on the season. They do not want to go 0-2. This is kind of like a week 2 must win almost for the Chiefs, because not only do you go you're 0-2 to start the season, not that they can't overcome it, but you just lost to a team that just embarrassed you in the Super Bowl.
And you got a 3-game losing streak going back to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and 2 of them are come from against the Eagles.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that plays, I think, a key factor in Patrick Mahomes eyeing up whoever. If the water boy goes out for a catch and Adoree Jackson's anywhere near him, he's throwing him the ball.
All right. What else you got?
My other matchup will be the daunting Chiefs defensive line against hopefully a little bit more prepared offensive line. I think the offensive line had some more. They weren't terrible this last game, but I think some of their flaws were hidden by the wheels of Jalen Hurts. If he was more of a pocket passer, there could have been a little bit more pressure on him this week. And that's why I give Jalen Hurts a lot more credit last week. He was able to overcome that. That would be number 2. And number 3 would be Travis Kelce and our young linebacker core like Jahad Campbell. I'm sure Zach Bond's going to be involved with it too. But how does Jahad Campbell go up against a more seasoned tight end veteran?
Yeah, and actually that's my my number 3 is Travis Kelce versus if it's Jason Kelce versus the Eagles linebackers, I think the Eagles linebackers are going to come out on top. But no, Travis Kelce versus our linebacking core is my number 3. My number 2, Saquon Barkley versus Steve Spagnuolo. Again, I'm going to go back to, and hopefully I can eat my words on this, but maybe to the man that presented the blueprint on how to stop Saquon or limit the damage to Saquon. Now, The 8 in the box was the start of that. But there was one other thing that I saw in the Super Bowl that was really, I thought, key in stopping Saquon. And it was the way the Chiefs tackled Saquon. They were just going all in. They weren't falling for the juke jiving. They were just going, and they were going to live or die with the fact that they made contact with him or not. But they weren't stopping their momentum. They were just going at him, and it was pretty effective. It was good tackling. They were lucky, but yeah, I know you live by the sword. And I think that's a tactic that might have gotten forgotten by some people. Some people missed it, but very aggressive tackling against Saquon Barkley, along with stacking the box. So does that continue? And does Spagnuolo maybe ratchet it up a bit? And my number one matchup is Pat Mahomes versus the Eagles secondary. I know you mentioned Adoree Jackson specifically, but I want to see Pat Mahomes and the entire secondary. The entire secondary, or half of it, is somewhat in flux right now when we're talking about the secondary. And there was some times where Cooper went out wide in the game against Dak. Are we going to see more of that if things are not working out well early on? And then who goes in the slot? Does Jacorian Bennett come in? I mean, what is the secondary going to do against Pat Mahomes as a unit? So those are my key matchups.
I think that's a matchup against anybody in Pat Mahomes. I mean, listen, love him or hate him, he is still he's probably the best quarterback playing definitely right now, but outside of Tom Brady in the last 30 years. I mean, like who else can you say has that gravitas that just makes a team that much better?
And you're right. Saquon is going to have to be active in the passing game to open up the run game. If they just run up the middle, Saquon won't do nothing. Yeah, and that's another thing we didn't talk about. I'll bring that up now. What do you think was the reason around no edge game running wise for the Eagles? It was all up the gut.
I think, well, that's where the defensive line was probably the weakest for the Cowboys, at least leading into week 1. And they thought and that's where they're probably, and also, I mean, it makes a little sense. If you think about it makes a little sense that they're going to hit there because they don't expect them to. They were expecting exactly what you guys just said, and they were trying to give them something else.
Yep. All right, Al. Give me your 3 keys to the Eagles' victory.
Continue to knock the rust off of this preseason-ish play that we have. That would be definitely key number 1. Key number 2, focusing on the game in front of you. Don't worry about the game that's already behind you, aka the last Super Bowl. And key number 3 is minimize the penalties mistakes. I mean, that was killer for them. I mean, you take them out, this is a lot different game against Dallas.
No, you're 100% right. Mike 3 keys Eagles victory. Again, my number 3 is your number 1. Be less sloppy with the overall play of the game. You know, you can't give up 110 yards in penalties. You just can't do that. Keep holding on to the football. No more turnovers. That was great. My second key to victory, this is a key that I go with every week until they start proving it more consistent and they're off to a great start. I want that fast start every week. I want that opening drive touchdown. We got to have that. I mean, that's a great tone setter, and it gets the offense. It's the scripted plays of the game. There's no reason why you're not running those effectively. Continue on with the fast starts. And give me a little bit of offensive pizzazz, Al, for my number 1 key to Eagles victory. Throw the friggin' football down the field. Let me get some of them YOLO balls, man. That's what they do well. Let's do it, man.
They did the one, and they got away from it. I don't.
Yeah.
Do you think this is more a Kevin Petula, like, you know, just testing my waters situation?
It might be. And the question would be, because there's 2 questions that come out of this game to me right off the bat if the offense sputters or is similar to what it was in week 1. When is the honeymoon period with Kevin Padula end? And then when do we start on the A.J. Brown Diva watch? Is kind of the 2 questions that, probably I'm going to dredge up if the offense does not step it up a bit.
I think the whole A.J. Brown Diva thing's a little overblown, to be honest with you. I think all wide receivers are just that kind of personality. I mean, remember the book thing? The whole he's reading on the sidelines, like he doesn't care, he's not into it, and people were just getting so overwhelmed by it. Like, I don't know. I think it's over. I think it's overblown, to be completely and utterly honest with you.
Steve says blitz Mahone all game long. The wide receivers won't be able to get open fast enough, but you're also going to put Mahomes out wide, and he's going to be able to beat. Don't forget, Mahomes can run too. Come on, Steve. Steve, you're trying to like jam a square peg through a round hole with this kid. Pat Mahomes is an elite quarterback, and you got to accept that. He's everything we want our elite quarterback. Well, we don't have an elite quarterback. He's everything we want. Anybody wants their quarterback to be. He's going to get you. He's going to get you. Whether or not you can mitigate that damage against him is really what it comes down to. And maybe you can get that late turnover or get that late stop, because it might come down to that in this game. So, blitzing him, I don't know if that's the right recipe, because then you open up the entire field to Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have blitz packages in there, though. You can't not do it, because then you give Pat Mahomes what he wants. It's just like if you didn't. I know Tom Brady wasn't a mobile quarterback like Patrick Mahomes was or is, but you can't give them what they want at the same time. You just got to disguise some things as blitz packages and make them think it's coming at certain times and not bring it versus bring it. Like, you got to keep him on his back of his heels, like off balance a little bit. That's how you do it. Like, you can't not give it to him, but you can't overdo it either. You just have to be able to pull off the blitz at the right time. You know what I mean? It's like when you throw high heat down the middle of the plate, guy swings at the right time, he's going to make contact and it might leave the yard. So you got to kind of pick and choose your moments, but you can't not do any blitzing at all. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, pressure, yes, absolutely pressure. But if you're going to jailbreak every play, that's not going to work either. And Steve brings up a point here.
Sooner or later, an offensive coordinator is going to notice this, and that gets
they're going to put in a safety play. Steve says he was everything in the Super Bowl and last week, right? So, Steve, I don't know what game you watched last week, but I saw the man in a complete vertical in the air, stretched out, head to toe, vertically in the air, and flick his wrist, and the ball travels 70 miles down the field. I saw him do that twice. All right. And both were completions. Yeah, they ultimately lost the football game, but again, he makes stuff happen, man. And in the Super Bowl, there was a remedy. There was a plan to beat him. They did pressure him, but the turnovers. He was working off some short fields or some really long fields. I'm going to give the Eagles what they did to him in the Super Bowl, but can they replicate that? Because this ain't the same defense that Pat Mahomes is going to be facing on Sunday. This is not that defense. Six of those guys don't play here anymore, and we're 7 months later. So I'm not going to even buy the Super Bowl thing either. Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in football, and that's where I think he is.
I listen. I don't think you can look past Pat Mahomes at all. Yes, you do, Barb. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yes, not Kyle Quinn, Barb.
I've been called many things, Barb, but Kyle Quinn is not one of them. You can't ever look past Pat Mahomes. You can't ever look past anybody that elite quarterback. You just can't. You can't also not call Jalen Hurts an elite quarterback. I'm sorry. You have to start putting him in that elite category by now.
What?
Yeah,
man, I'm not going another hour talking about Jalen Hurts' elite quarterback status.
Then we'll just say Al's right. Move on then.
No,
okay.
So, I don't have the strength for that tonight, man.
But yes, and I agree with you, Matt, in the sense that you can't. This is a different defense. This is a different team, but you have to look at it also. Even Patrick Mahomes is human at times, and he's going to have human moments. And this team is, I don't want to say reeling a little bit. They already have a loss. They lost their key wide receiver. So this is best time ever for the Phillies or the Eagles to have to play Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in my eyes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I'll buy that. But what is some of these nonsensical comments I just saw? I'm aware of his resume. The resume is for the Hall of Fame. It's what you're doing now, and he's 0-2 in his last 2 games. I mean, you're 100% right, but last time I checked, it's not the Jalen Hurts Philadelphia Eagles dynasty we're living in right now. It's the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty that we're still living in, and that's you didn't mention that part of his resume either. So you got to bring that up. Barbara says Mahomes hasn't been good for a few years. Again, Barbara, I want to cite the fact that we're living in the Kansas City Chief dynasty still. He's been better than what I think people are giving him credit for. Kelsey injured his own player, Worthy. Really? Is that how Worthy got hurt through Kelsey? I didn't see that. Would they collide or something? I missed that, Barb.
I don't think it went out and Tanya Harding hit the situation, but
all right. Let's go now to our pick'em or our score prediction and MVP segment. This is where we give you our picks, our scores, our game MVPs. I'm gonna go with Kyle first because he did send me the information. Kyle thinks, and this is interesting, Eagles will lose 21-20. He's going with the Chiefs and he's going with Pat Mahomes as the game MVP. Al, you ready for this?
So I'm torn a little bit. I honestly kind of have the Eagles losing this game like before the season started, and I still kind of do. But I'm looking at a lot of key factors in this game, and it kind of outside of it being a home game for the Chiefs, it kind of still makes me feel it's a little bit in the Eagles' favor. Again, you lose Xavier Worthy. That's a big shot for them. And you're coming off a loss. You're coming off a loss in. Don't forget they were in Brazil too, so they have to travel back from that. Now they have a little extended time, but Eagles actually get an extra day's rest and all that stuff out of the situation. This is going to be a very close game. So you said Kyle said 21-20, right?
21-20, yeah.
1 point. This is a field goal kind of game in my eyes. I think I was going to say, I'll say 27-24. Chiefs. I'm gonna say the Chiefs pull this one out. I think they need this. They, like I said, they're kind of backed into a corner, and they really need this. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs by 3.
All right. So Al's going with the Chiefs by 3. Kyle's going with the Chiefs by 1. I'm going 31-19 Chiefs. I think this game gets away from the Eagles a little bit. I don't know. I have a different vibe with Pat Mahomes than I guess most people do. And again, I don't really care who he's throwing the football to. Yeah, whatever. So I say 31-19 Chiefs. The Eagles get the loss. It's not an acceptable loss, but it's a loss. And then we can start ringing the panic bell as we do here in this town after going 1-1 through 2 weeks. So stand by for that. That's going to be the interesting byproduct of this week's game.
Is that going to be Is it that going to be this year, or is it going to be more like in 2023 when they started off like 10-1 or whatever it was?
Yeah, who called that downfall, by the way?
I give that guy his credit. I mean, he's a jackass and everything else, but that one time, even a broken clock's right twice a day, bud.
I called that. That was a paper 10-1 all the way. Matter of fact, that Josh Allen game that you referenced earlier, where Jordan Davis ran him down, I think that was the last time they were actually any good that season. I think they ended up losing like 6 out of the last 7.
They were 10-1. That was their 10th win, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because they lost to the Commanders. That was the one. And then they won.
They beat Buffalo, and then they lost to San Francisco, and that was the downfall. I'm sorry. They lost to San Francisco, and that's when it started.
Yeah, and just so you know, Washington is lost, or they're doing their victory right now. 27-18. Commanders do fall to Green Bay. So if the Eagles do pull out a victory in Arrowhead, this puts them on top of the division.
Yeah, it does. And Steve says Eagles 26-19. Eagles
reverse.
Yeah, pretty much. Eagles will win it probably, but it won't be pretty. And Barb says Matty.
And Barb, I'm going to agree with you that any person who wins this, it's a pretty game. I don't think it's going to be. This is going to be a game of whoever mistakeless football, like least amount of mistakes in this football. The penalties are going to play a big factor. And, we all know that things tend to kind of lean towards Patrick Mahomes when it comes down to those things. So we'll find out.
For those of you just tuning in, you are watching the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn. That is not Kyle. That is Big Al sitting in for Kyle tonight. And we're coming down the home stretch. We got one more segment. But before we get into that, I want to make sure everybody was reminded of the great content here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. We got you covered for pretty much everything you're looking for, with the exception of some of the ESPN Ocho stuff. We don't cover dodgeball or anything like that. But here is our schedule for the rest of this week. Tomorrow we got some. You're on the call tomorrow, aren't you, Al, for the Fighting Final?
I am on the call. You got the KC Royals Phillies. So you got me on the call that game. Hopefully the Phillies continue to make it rain here in Philadelphia because they're the only team in the last 10 games, by the way, who are above 500. Every other team in the National League is 5-5 or less. We are 8-2. So hopefully they continue to roll.
And Al's City connection will continue tomorrow as they.
So I'm actually going to wear on the program. I have my red City Connect. So I'm going to wear that. I'm going to break that out tomorrow just to show you what it should have looked like.
Well, interesting you say that because a little point to the City Connect. So the Phillies got 2 more Friday home games left in the regular season, and they're not going to wear those in the postseason. So
I'll vomit.
We got 2 more games left with those. And per MLB rules, Major League Baseball teams can change the City Connects after 2 years. So the Phillies are on the clock to change those if they want in 2026. And here's hoping they do because they are god awful, man.
Well, here's the thing is I think this also plays a factor into things. It's money. Of course they're going to break out something else because they can sell more jerseys.
Yeah.
Because people are willing to buy them. So I don't see why, unless, doesn't mean they can't wear it. Wait, can you not wear them again all season?
You would have to designate them as your alternate, which they keep the creams. They wouldn't do that. So
yeah. So yeah, no, and that's fine. I could see them retiring them and coming up with a new one.
Yeah. So you're right. It's money. Commanders are terrible against the Giants too. Daniels 1-hit wonder. We'll see about that. Packers look pretty good, especially that defense. We'll see. We're going to get into some of that pick'em stuff here in a second. Philly versus KC weekend. Yes, it is a Philly versus KC weekend. Very interesting point there. Royals and Chiefs both were going to be battling against our sports teams.
It happened in the World Series in 2022. The Phillies Astros and the Houston Texans where Eagles were playing at the same time in the same week.
I have watched the Phillies in almost 2 weeks. It's a joke playing these terrible teams. I'm judging the playoffs only. Barbara, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not saying that they're not. Listen, I've always thought they were going to make the playoffs, and I always thought they were going to win the division. By the way, magic numbers down out of 5 to clinch the NL East.
And 2 games out of first place in all of Major League Baseball. Don't forget.
Yep. So listen, I always knew they were getting to the postseason. I never doubted that. But you're right, Barbara. It does come down to when the calendar flips to October. What are we going to get? And of course, the verdict is still out. And hopefully it works out better this time.
All right. Well, not to get into a Phillies conversation too much, but tonight was a really good example of this team playing good baseball at the right time. You Absolutely. Had a game 4 of it. You won 3 games of the 4. The pitcher gave up 4 runs in the first inning, but went on to go to pitch the next 7 innings flawlessly. And the offense came back. And talk about Harrison Bader. People thought I was nuts when I said put Bader in that top spot, or not the top. I had him at number 2, but I think in the playoffs you're looking at that either you put Bader at 1 or 2, and then go right down the line and keep Schwarber at 4.
No, I agree, and it balances the lineup out. And it balances out that lineup, which I've been begging for all season long. And Bader has brought balance to that. And kudos to Dombrowski. Finally, a damn trade deadline move worked. It only took 4 years, but finally it worked. But Al, it comes down to October. I don't care what we can talk all that one, and they get the kudos. They deserve it because they're doing what they got to do. They've reduced the magic.
Playing hot baseball at the right time. That's all I can say. Everybody else isn't. Even the Brewers. I mean, they're 3-7 in their last 10 games, and they look like they were just on a roll until the end of the season.
Yeah. No, I agree. But they've reduced that magic number from 13 to 5 in like a week. So no, I got to give them kudos for doing what they got to do. But again, it's all about October. All right, Al, let's go to this is usually the part of the show where I do it alone. I usually cut Junior off by this point and send him on his way. But
I still call him Junior, by the way.
But we're going to go into Matty B's Pick'em segment now. This is obviously the part where I reveal my week 2 picks in the NFL. Now, I am going to reveal a game that just occurred. You got to stand by my integrity. I made this pick yesterday, so this game still stands. And matter of fact,
we'll stand by it, I guess.
No, we're going to stand by this game. But let's recap what I did in week 1. 11-5 to start the season off in Pick'ems, Al. I traditionally get off to some bad starts, and I was pretty impressed with myself going 11-5. Week 1,
no preseason rust for Matty B's pick.
No, No, but it's the two worst weeks to pick games are week 1 and week 18. And I thankfully got off on the right start. So, Al, let's get into some of week 2 matchups. See what you think about some of this. Of course, I'm taking the Chiefs over the Eagles. I did have Green Bay beating Washington. I did have that. So
Okay.
I'm right about that. That game just went in final. On to Sunday's action. Jacksonville versus Cincinnati. I'm going with Jacksonville here, Al.
No.
I'm going with
bad.
the upset special, man. I'm going with the upset special. Then I got Giants at the Cowboys. I'm going Giants because, one, I'll never pick the Cowboys to win anything, and you're probably right. Dallas will probably win that game. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be an ugly game. But I would not be surprised if the Giants pulled it off.
No, and I told you, I said first part would be amazing. Like just the Dallas Nation, Cowboys Nation would just go like absolutely nuts. Like talk about Philly overreacting to things, but going 0-2 in the season after the whole Micah Parsons situation, you better any of your friends or family or Cowboys fans, you better like keep them away from any bridges. But with that being said, the Giants are so bad. It's like so hard. If you just say I'll put money down on even $1, I'd be like, I have to say that the Giants are going to lose this game. They are just a bad team. They have 2 good guys on defense, maybe 3, so they're not going to be able to stop anybody there. And offense, they're a complete and utter wreck. Russell Wilson, get the hell out of here?
Russell Wilson is. That's why I want to make a hot take on this. I think
Okay.
the Giants get down early 17-0, and they make the move to Dart, and he rallies them to a win.
You think they're going to move the Dart already in week 2?
Yeah, based on what we saw out of Russell in week 1, if they go down 17-0 with a totally ineffective offense, I think we'll see Jackson Dart at the end of the second quarter in week 2, and I think he rallies the troops to a win.
That would make my day either way. Either way, I mean, we want them all to lose, so it doesn't matter. This is a pick 'em in this sense of it's divisional game. Either one loses, either one wins. It helps us.
It does. Then I got Chicago at Detroit. I don't see where Chicago is going to stand a chance in this game. I think Detroit's a little pissed off, and they're going to get back on. They can't lose 2 divisional games right off the bat of the season. They got to win that football game. This is a must win for the Lions.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, I'm going with the Lions on this one. And 2 divisional teams. I mean, honestly, here's my thing is, I said to you earlier, the Lions are going to be overcoming and dealing with what the 2023 Eagles did. You lost both your coordinators, which were big portions of your team success the year before. So I think the Lions are going to have a little bit coming to Jesus moment this season. I still think they're going to be one of the tops in their division, but I think it's going to be a lot harder fought than it has been over the last couple of years, especially knowing that one team has their former offensive coordinator who knows them, personally in that situation. So, but I do think the Lions pull this one off. Yes.
Barbara says she played Jameis Winston instead. You probably, that's why I said it was a hot take. But I wouldn't be. Jackson Dart would be. It might be the shot in the arm. Listen, the Giants are not they got good pieces. They don't got much wide receiver help, but you can't continuously herd out bad quarterbacks season after season, week after.
Yes, you can. Apparently, you can. The Giants are a terrible organization. They are a terrible team. They're terrible coaching. There's nothing good about what they do. And then what do? They go out and they get a guy who's been cooked. And then they got a guy that just doesn't know how to make a comeback or whatever the heck you want to call it. They continually make, it's like, can the Giants make another bad decision? Hold my beer. Like that. Yes, they can.
And you got Dan Jones putting up 38 points for the Colts. Now let's go to LA Rams versus the Tennessee Titans. I got the Rams. New England versus Miami. I'm going to go Miami. I know Miami's just, man, they're reeling in that. It's the Daniels versus Dable watch of who's going to get the boot first in the NFL this year, head coaching wise. Mm-hmm. I'm not sold on anything the Patriots are doing. I'm not sold on Drake May at all. I still like Tua, man. I'm going to go with it's the home. It's down in Miami, so they got that heat thing working for them. So I'm going to go Dolphins over the Patriots.
I'm gonna. Yeah, listen. If this was Tom Brady in Miami, I would be like they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Definitely, because Tom Brady just didn't win in Miami, no matter how bad Miami was and how good he was. But in this case, I am going to pick the Dolphins.
All right. And then we got San Francisco versus New Orleans. I think the biggest question in this game is how ugly does it get? And how bad does it get for the Saints in this game? Do the old-timey New Orleans Saint fans, do they break out the paper bags at some point in this game?
Oh, the Aints?
Yeah.
The old New Orleans Aints? I think they will be. I mean, this is going to be a bad and honestly, I was shocked. I mean, I know any guy wants to get a chance to be an NFL head coach, but I really did not think that he was going to take that job just because of how bad the Saints, like losing picks, losing money, had nothing to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just talk about bad organization decisions after another, and he's supposed to. I mean, maybe it helps him kind of give him 5 years of like, can't help it. This team sucks situation. So we'll find out.
So I think the Saints are lining themselves up for I would have said 2 weeks ago Arch Manning, but the way that kid looked last week, you can have him, but they're definitely pivoting or positioning themselves for a quarterback next year in the draft.
Oh, absolutely.
Then let's move on now to Buffalo and the Jets. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah.
Seattle and Pittsburgh. I got Seattle. Cleveland and Baltimore. Give me some Baltimore. Denver versus Indy. Going with Denver. Carolina against the Cardinals. Kind of went back and forth on this. I'm not sold that the Cardinals.
Home team?
Arizona.
I'll give it to the Cardinals. When there's two bad teams, I always pick the home team.
Listen, I'm not sold completely on the fact that the Panthers are that bad anymore, and I know there's a popular thing going around out there that the Cardinals are going to be a surprise out in the West. I'm not buying that either. So I'm going Arizona too, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a close game.
I wouldn't be surprised either because they both suck. We're going to see who sucks least in this situation.
The least sucky team in this game.
Yeah.
Then let's go to the game on Sunday night, Minnesota or Atlanta at Minnesota. Atlanta looked good. They went back and forth last week. Again, Bijan's JJ McCarthy with the great deep debut. I'm going Minnesota, but Al, what do you come out on this one? It's in Minnesota.
Atlanta sucks, man. Atlanta is they're not good. They pick good players, but they don't put anything good around them. I think I don't know anything about JJ McCarthy from that game because I don't believe in Caleb Williams, and I just think they let that game go. I don't know if JJ won it or they just lost it and gave it to JJ. But to me, this is a coin flip. I think Minnesota is probably just a little bit better, so I'm going to go with Minnesota.
Then we'll go to Sunday or Monday night. We got a doubleheader. 2 games on Monday night this week. First one's Tampa at Houston. Good game. I'm going to go Houston, though. That's a good game.
Is it in Houston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Houston.
And then the nightcap is the Chargers in Vegas against the Raiders. Again, I'm kind of lining the Raiders up in the Saints category. Give me the Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to pick against them 99% of the time.
Steve says Purdy isn't playing. Mac Jones is starting. They have no wide receivers. I wouldn't put it past the Saints to win. I disagree. Saints are terrible. Spencer Rattler's their quarterback. I don't care who's quarterbacking. No, I'm not. I don't care who's quarterbacking for the other team. JJ McCarthy's first game better than Hurts already. Sorry, it's late. Come on, geez, Barbara. Actually, I thought Jalen Hurts' first game of the season. Yeah, I mean, 2 different types of situations. But all right, Al, that was our pick'em segment.
That's pretty harsh. I mean, you're gonna just by the pure stats, Barbara, and give JJ McCarthy's better than Jalen Hurts. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes has 200-yard games and they still win it. So I mean, it's all about the W in the end of the game. At the end of the season, you can put up, it's like the whole MVP conversation. Keep it. I want the Super Bowl MVP.
She also says Bryce Young is bad. Again, I don't think he's as bad as everybody thinks he is. I'm telling you. And I got his rookie card. I need him to be good. So
there it is. There's Matt's underlining.
Yeah, I got to get Daddy needs a new pair of shoes, man. Says no Kittle either. Mac Jones is just as bad as Rattler. You might be right, but no, I don't think so. Spencer Rattler is bad. Even the reclamation project of Mac Jones. I didn't know Mac Jones was the backup quarterback in San Francisco. Last I heard, he was
still in the league, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was getting cut from New England. I didn't know he actually caught on somewhere else. But I'm still taking the 49ers over the Saints. Hurts is a front runner. He doesn't impress me as a passenger on a stack team. I agree with you, Barbara, but we're not opening that can of worms. We've been on the air over an hour and a half. So, Al, though, before I say goodbye, where can the fans find you?
Well, Big Al Sports with a Z on X, as well as right here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network Friday night. Yes, CMC is playing. Thank God I drafted him, and I drafted Kittle. So I am the kiss of death when it comes to players and fantasy football. So
I took McCaffrey as my first round pick. He was available at 9th overall, and I took him as well. And you're right, it's a gamble.
He was available towards the end, and that's what happened. I was towards the end pick. So
yeah, and exactly it. I took him. Kittle, I had a chance, but I no, because I've been burned by Kittle too many times in the past. He's just not a good fantasy producer. For me, at least, he hasn't been. So I stayed away from him.
He was available when I came to pick for my tight end. So
I went with Kelsey. I got Travis Kelsey as my tight end. Thank you, Steve, very much. And don't forget, Steve, you can see him all over the network as well. He did the attacking third earlier tonight. So, and I think he also will be on the Birds Flyby because, we talk all about all their pregame show. Well, we do a postgame here too. And that is the Birds Flyby every postgame Eagles game. So make sure you're checking Steve out on Sunday with a random co-host. That's the stipulation. Steve's got to find somebody off the street to come on with him. I don't care. He's got to find somebody. But no, he'll be on at 7:30-ish or so Sunday night. So make sure you're tuned in for that. You'll be seeing me and Al popping in and out of that show throughout the season too. So.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
All right. And I, of course, am Matty B. You can find me on the It's a Wrap Sports Network and everywhere else. Good fun here, Al. Again, we got to do this more often. Kyle's just droll, man. He's beneath me at times. So
he's beneath you.
He's beneath me at times. Now, Kyle, listen. Yeah, Junior. Hey, Kyle, listen, I'll see you next week. Al did a great job, and take care of what you're doing out there.
I did my best Kyle Quinn impression.
You did, and you did it really well. My thoughts and prayers are with you, Kyle, right now. So handle what you got to do out there, and I'll talk to you next week. So thank you for everybody for tuning in to the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, with Big Al sitting in tonight. I am your host, Matty B, and we will talk next week. Go Birds.